last night, the announcement that CBS has decided to end The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. This is a moment not only because of ratings or because of the financial reasons, because look, Colbert's number one in late night, if you don't include Gutfeld. I include Gutfeld. Some people don't because he's not a network. But he has dominated. He has been number one. Now, there's a lot going on that people don't know about. Don't know about this space, don't know how much money this costs, what it looks like, the changing landscape of media, and of course, the political ramifications. Now, CBS themselves are going out there and saying, look, this has nothing to do with any sort of politics. This happens to do only with a financial decision, because it's not just Stephen Colbert is being replaced like they did with Jay Leno to Conan to Jimmy Fallon, all of those that have happened over the years, or went from David Letterman to Stephen Colbert. They have decided to just end their late night programming. And this also includes the ending of what was the Late Late Show and now is at midnight. Both of those are going away as well. CBS has just decided to walk away from the daily late night format. The times, they are changing, folks. I really feel like there are many different reasons for this. Of course, it doesn't help that Stephen Colbert, just about a week ago, went on a pretty notorious rant that we'll play, calling the situation, the settlement between President Trump and CBS, Paramount, Viacom, whatever you want to call it. He called it a bribe. And then he was very upset with his own network, a network he'd been working for many years, even before this, working for Comedy Central, which is part of that family, the MTV network of family. Like, I worked there for a little bit of time, so I have a little bit of insight here. Also worked in the late night space for quite some time as well. So I can give you some insights of what I was hearing, some of my sources that I can't necessarily reveal what was going on there, because you don't go out and do a monologue attacking your network without some sort of assumption that either the writing was already on the wall and this show was coming to an end, because you don't all of a sudden just get a call saying, hey, sorry, the show's over. I mean, sometimes that does happen, but not when you've had a 10-year contract, when you've been running and you're number one in ratings. That doesn't happen that way. So I'm sure the rumors had started circulating. He's trying to save himself, and I think there are a lot of places where Stephen Colbert is going to land. Look, it doesn't help that he had a show which has just been notoriously so divisive. Someone who has come out there, and look, I'm a fan of him in terms of, I think he's a really creative mind. I think he's got actually a pretty good faith backbone. But when it comes to his politics, he could never really keep it together and make a show that could be for everyone, even with his own biases.
Well, in Logan last night, when he made this announcement, one of his guests was the senator from California,
our favorite,
Adam Schiff. And Adam Schiff also tweeted this or posted on X after that announcement was made. Obviously, he knew earlier in the day because those shows are pre-taped. But he put this out. Just finished taping with Stephen Colbert, who announced that his show was canceled. If Paramount and CBS ended The Late Show for political reasons, the public deserves to know and deserves better. The irony there coming from Adam Schiff about saying if something was done for political reasons cannot be lost. But
the idea of the public needs to know why this late night comedy talk show is coming to an end.
On Wednesday, he found out his show was being canceled. Today, he announced it. And this all takes effect next May, Aaron. So he does have one more season. But this means one of the staunchest Trump critics on television will be leaving.
One of the staunchest critics of President Trump will be leaving late night. That was never the intention of that format. That was never the intention of what it was supposed to be, what you went to sleep with. It was something funny, maybe lightly political, but we live in a world that's so political now. How about giving us a little bit of break, have some fun with what's going on in the news, but don't be so politically disturbing. And then on top of that, we're done. I'm sorry. I was in that world. I hosted a late night talk show for many years. The 6-minute interview that's pre-planned, that's been pretty much pre-recorded, all but pre-recorded, because they've gone through all of this prep and they've gone through all of these screenings. We all see through it. We don't want it anymore. But of course, this does come on the heels of this settlement that happened between CBS's parent company and President Trump. Now, I want you to understand this. They're saying it's a financial decision. I don't know the exact number of budget. I'm sure it's out there probably. But just for an example, the show that came on before, we're talking about the Late Late Show with James Corden, when I know that ended a few years ago. It was costing them $65 million to make that show. It only was making about $40 million. That was a show after him. I would assume, now move that to New York. Move that to a much bigger theater, a studio you don't own, the Ed Sullivan Theater. You're talking about 200 union workers, at least, that are working on that show each and every day. The absurdity of that budget, I would assume it's well over $100 million a year to fund that show. I'm sorry, the times are changing when you can have a studio set up and do. We were watching an episode of a random YouTube series interview show that was doing double, triple the ratings, their numbers. And by the way, they're transparent numbers. They're not fake numbers being held behind a Nielsen box.
Well, in Logan, this, as you said, the company is saying it's a financial decision, but they're going to try to spin this. We already saw what Adam Schiff is saying, like that America deserves better. But I want you to think, if you're watching this at home, if you went into your job and used a very large platform, and you said this about your bosses, about the company. Yeah, we're going to play bite 4. And this is Colbert on his show talking about his company and this settlement that they did with President Trump over election editing of the Kamala Harris interview on 60 Minutes. Here's what he said, what they are paying him to say about his own company, bite 4.
Now, I believe this kind of complicated financial settlement with a sitting government official has a technical name in legal circles. It's big fat bribe. Because this all comes as Paramount's owners are trying to get the Trump administration to approve the sale of our network to a new owner, Skydance.
I mean, these are publicly traded companies doing large financial transactions.
And that, by the way, is a very small portion. He pushes it very hard, says that they should have gone further. They could have won. Well, but let's hear about this.
Okay, first of all, you're selling your company.
Right.
So they could have, these are corporate decisions. They are not political decisions. So they were just thinking, you know what, we've got existing lawsuits. Which ones can we wrap up that will not affect, that will make it easier for us to sell and finalize a deal? So they were already on the way out. So this idea that these companies are there to protect, all of his right to get, millions of dollars an episode, so he could have his 8 minutes that is forced broadcast into your home, like you're talking about with these ratings, instead of having people choose. If with as big of a platform as he is, no one's crying tears for Stephen Colbert. He out of those budgets too. When you talk about $40 and $60 million a year. A lot of that budget is their salary.
Yeah, a lot of it's going to him.
I mean, I bet Stephen Colbert had to be making over $20 million a year.
I would assume so. I'd look that
with
up
all the different, or somewhere around there. And so if the show itself is only, they're all running in the red. They're all self-promotional shows. I think that what we got back to is these people get put up on a pedestal. It's made for Comedy Central kind of television. If that still exists, either way, it's kind of meant for me.
I just don't think television is what it was.
If you want to let Stephen Colbert do what Stephen Colbert's good at, which is kind of being a smart aleck liberal, put it online.
Yeah.
There should be an audience for it. It should be a big audience.
There will be. There's millions of people who do watch his show.
I don't know that I need to watch him interviewing Jack Black about a movie for kids.
Right, and I think that's where we've lost it in the format side of it.
But then anything wrong with either of them, or that they can't do their job.
Well, I think there's a very good chance you see him stay with the company. If you look at his announcement yesterday, when he actually did finally make his announcements, all of a sudden CBS is his best friend. They've been a wonderful partner. I'm very sad, but they've been wonderful. Why? Because I have a feeling, if I was a prognosticator, that you would say there's a good chance he's within the company of CBS. They're going to cause enough uproar. And where does he land? Back at Comedy Central, back at The Daily Show when Jon Stewart decides he's done. That's just my theory. That's just, I think, where we're headed. But I do think these budgets got out of control. And I think also when you are even if you're number one, and look, we've seen this with Tucker on Fox News. Even if you're number one, if they can't sell ads, the show's over.
Yeah. Well, and Logan, to that point as well, let's say it wasn't financial. What Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren, I think, is now jumping on this bandwagon, trying to say we need answers, we deserve better.
Because it was the one place they could go.
Right. But let's say, first of all, the fact that U.S. senators were going on late night tells you everything you know about that show at that point, because that's supposed to be entertaining, and Adam Schiff's not entertaining.
How often? I mean, I would say during presidential elections, maybe you would see a lot more. You'd see a lot more politics. Of course, they always talked about current events. I don't think it was so much politics, but current events. to put a lighthearted look on things that were usually tough moments. But if you look back at history, I wonder how many times like senators and congresspeople who happen to be the most controversial on the left, and like that's who they're putting on as guests. It's very bizarre. Who wants to see? I don't think.
And
I'm also
fun,
thinking of both
guests,
sides.
not as like
at
a,
11 o'clock at night is the last thing you want to see before going to bed. Adam Schiff, telling you that Donald Trump is a Russian agent still, and that he needs to be in prison. Like that's not. Not only is it not that entertaining, like you said, you can get that 24/7 all day. You can get as much Adam Schiff as you want. You could create a news network tomorrow, and Adam Schiff will likely come talk to your microphone.
Well, and let's go down that rabbit trail a little bit further. If let's say it was for the political reasons, not for the financial reasons, which you've laid out so well, because they were the number one in the space in this format that is going away, but they're number one in the space. You wouldn't think they'd be the first to just completely cancel their entire format when they're at least winning that at this point. Here's what's crazy to me is that what Stephen Colbert just did to all those employees that you mentioned, that there's 200 union workers on this, there's jobs and people's livelihoods at stake, because he decided to go out there and say his company was taking a bribe. He also said, I know you said after the fact he was more speaking highly of them, but on his show he said, I don't think there's anything CBS could do to restore my trust, and then made a joke, well, maybe $16 million, as if he wasn't making enough money. But that's on him. They can say you're a hero and that he's exercising his free speech. He can say things, but when he's using the show he's being paid for to then bash his own company,
you'd be all fired.
They're going to cancel the show.
I want you to understand this too, though, because I have sources in late night, because I've worked in that space many times, and I don't want to reveal anybody. But I also was told Stephen Colbert was trying to get out of this deal. He did not want to be doing the show anymore. He'd been doing it for a decade, and there's probably some kind of auto-renew clause because they want those same hosts forever. This was also, don't put it past him that this is all marketing to make him, like you said, a hero, force their hand to cancel the show. I do think he thought they would replace him. I don't think he thought they were just going to say, you know what, we're closing up shop. But look, that happened here, and look, I'll be honest here. That happened here with TBN. They had the Mike Huckabee show. It was one of their biggest shows. You know what they decided? They decided that based on the current events and the way network television's running right now, that a late night style talk show is not where they should be investing their money.
Right.
So they didn't replace him. The same thing now has happened with Stephen Colbert. Is it sad? Sure. As someone that loves television history, it's a bummer. That format is what it is. Hopefully the Tonight Show sticks around just purely because I care about the history of it. But that is not the case here. I think this was all planned. I think he wanted out and figured out the only way I can do that is to make myself essentially a martyr to the left. And by doing that, tick off a lot of people higher up. Because again, if any of you went and did that about your boss on any sort of public stage, much less their own show,
that they're funding,
you're gone. And of course, that doesn't help when the show's losing money and bleeding money. And they have to have the Ed Sullivan Theater, which is a 100-year-old theater at this point. So you got to keep that up. You got to have hundreds of people that come in each and every day. But look, it's also a brutal grind for the host and the guests. So am I shocked that he, probably in his mid-60s now? Early 60s? I think he's probably early 60s. Is saying, you know what, I'm exhausted because we're doing 5 shows a week, including 2 shows on Thursdays. Yeah, I can imagine it's a brutal grind to do a show that is kind of irrelevant.
Right.
Okay, well that's sort of our take on that whole situation involving Stephen Colbert. And look, I think we're going to see how it unfolds. It's a long time between now and May of next year. Let's see where this goes. I don't think this story is over. I think CBS is going to swerve you. I think Stephen Colbert is going to swerve everybody, because this is the first time any of us have talked about his show in how long. It's like Shane Gillis at the ESPYs. When was the last time you cared about the ESPYs?
Or even knew that
even
existed.
Yeah. Okay? So they're like, oh, it's controversy. No, it's views. Okay? We live in a world of clicks and views here, so don't always fall for it. We are so excited to announce the ACLJ's brand new app, completely redesigned to provide you with the best tools available to partner with us at the ACLJ. You can watch the daily Seculo program, sign the petitions, customize your ACLJ membership experience, donate with the click of a button, and receive up-to-the-minute critical updates that the mainstream media can't censor. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to your phone's app store, search ACLJ, and click install. It's that simple.